Okay, we're back. So let's give everybody a few moments to get in. I see that it has not started on the, there it comes. Hang on just a second. There we go. Okay. Okay, we've got a couple people in. Let's just give everybody a few more minutes to log in, and we'll have a guest, and we'll get this show started today. Let's see. We're at 10 o'clock. We'll go at 10:02. And so while we're waiting to get started, I just want to remind everybody in the chat room, you guys can ask questions and kind of talk to us while we're having our conversation. I put in Kevin's email address, so if you have questions for him, feel free to follow up. I've also got my LinkedIn contact in there, so feel free to link in with me. And then, of course, check out ulimi.com. And what's Kevin? What's the web address for? Does KTCS probably doesn't have a website? Do they?
They do, but the main one would be Ashland Community and Technical College. Okay. It's where I'm at, and then you have the KCTCS. I think it's .edu.
Okay, so is it Ashland? What's the URL for Ashland?
So KCTCS is kctcs.edu, and Ashland is actc.edu.
Okay, cool. I'm going to get that in there. Okay, I think we just got about another minute. Okay, actually it's 10:02, so let's go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Breaking Through the Noise. My name is Doug Goodwin, and I am the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at Ulimi. And at Ulimi, we build smart technology for business. Please check out our latest virtual events and COVID-19 health assessments. So the purpose of Breaking Through the Noise is to bring in guests so we can discuss and have dialogue around key issues and topics going on in our business world today. So today I have a great guest, Kevin Harrison from Ashland Community College. Kevin is a leader in workforce development and a program coordinator for the Kentucky Apprenticeship Program. So Kevin, welcome to Breaking Through the Noise.
Well, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. So let's jump in. Can you just kind of tell us a little about yourself and how you got to, how you got to this position, and kind of just a little bit about what you do on a regular basis?
Sure. Actually, I've worked with ACTC in the past, and I was Assistant Dean of Minority and Campus Affairs. I left there and went to Ramey Estep, was residential director out there for a couple of years, came back to Ashland Community and Technical College under a fellowship program that they had, and I've worked in that for a while. Started my own organization in foster care, independent living, adoption, did that for quite a while. Started pastoring a church and just got into a lot of different things. I mean, right now I'm even doing some work with some folks in Africa. It's like I'm just got all these tentacles out there like an octopus, So,
you like to keep yourself busy, it sounds like.
I love to keep myself busy. Yeah, I don't like that dust gathering on me,
I hear you.
But this position at ACTC came available, and it's actually apprenticeship coordinator. And I was working with folks coming out of jail. One of the other things I was doing, coming out of jail and helping them get back into society, finding jobs, getting into educational programs. And I saw this job came available, and it's like it was such a good fit with what I was doing. And so I decided to apply for it, and the actual job calls for me to go out to business and industry and talk to them and see what their needs are. But what makes it different for what I do is that when I'm talking to them, my goal is to get them employees that are well skilled. And so the other part of that is to set up programs. I don't like to use the word apprenticeship because it has such a negative stereotype to it. The first thing people think is unions, and that's so far from the truth. In fact, if you look at, I think it's Germany, they said that just about every career path you have has an apprenticeship attached to it. So anyway, the goal is to get folks into our programs, link them with businesses, and set them up with these apprenticeship programs. So by the time they're done with their educational piece of it or training, they are now fully employed and on their career path. One of the things that they find with apprenticeship programs is that if you get people involved in an apprenticeship program, their longevity with that organization or company that they did that apprenticeship program with increases dramatically. And so we have that evidence-based piece that, when we're creating these programs, setting them up with businesses, that we know that they're going to have employees that will stay for them for quite a long time.
Well, and I have to believe and is that the programs you're setting up, you're customizing them to the specific need of the manufacturers or employers that you serve. Is that accurate?
That's where the work come in. No cookie cutter. I mean, you could have two construction companies and they want two totally different things. Yeah. And so we have to be able to adapt our programs and the way we set things up to match what they do specifically. Yes.
Yeah. And then what, in terms of like, what are employers actually looking for? I mean, I know, what are the types of things they're looking for? Let's just leave it a simple question.
It's interesting you asked that question, because you would say that, oh, well, they just want a worker that can do the job. Mm-hmm. Well, they're looking for much more than that right now. I'll give you an example. You talk to a big construction company and they have these heavy equipment, tractors and bulldozers and backhoes, and all those types of things. And so you would think right off the bat, hey, well, they just need somebody that can drive a tractor, man. So if we could train them in heavy equipment, they're going to be good, and turn that person over to them. That could not be further from the truth, because there's so many things that go around that job that person has to be skilled in. And in fact, that's what contractors are telling us, is that that's the problem. That's all they can do. Right. And so these guys, we're looking at a heavy equipment program right now, and we're starting to talk to contractors and other businesses and industry out there. And one of the things we're finding out is that that's the easy part. Teaching them how to operate the machine is the easy part. But what they're looking for is somebody that has a CDL. They can pick that heavy piece of equipment up, take it to the job site, unload it. Then they can look at the blueprints or the land, how the land needs to be developed. They can go ahead and do whatever needs to be done without anybody over their shoulder. Then if they have a problem, if that piece of machinery breaks down or it has an issue with it, they want somebody that is there on the site that's working that piece of machinery that can actually troubleshoot. They don't have to be a diesel mechanic, so to speak, but they need to understand, hey, this may be wrong with it. And so they'll be able to troubleshoot or to do some basic maintenance with that machine. This is something that is valuable to a contracting company, and they'll pay well for it. I knew one gentleman that I worked with a while back, and he said he wouldn't move his excavator for less than $100 an hour, and he didn't move it for less than 3 hours. So he was well seasoned and well into the field, but he knew his stuff.
So in a given day, somebody like that's going to be making $600 to $800 a day.
Yeah, that can easily be the case. Now they have to work to get there.
Sure.
And so now one of the things they're saying too is that with the equipment and technology, man, it's crazy. They was telling me that some of the bulldozers today, they can grade a piece of land to the as close as a golf ball or less.
Oh wow.
And it's all automated. So that guy's just sitting in there making sure it's ran by GPS and all this other stuff. So they have to be real knowledgeable about the new technology that's coming down the pike.
Well, I had no idea that bulldozers were so high tech. So that's pretty interesting right there.
They are high tech.
Yeah.
Bulldozers.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, in a good way. I mean, so really your programs are preparing people not just to to drive a bulldozer, but they're like a full scale field technician.
Yes, exactly right. Right. And so when they get to a site or when they're able to, get on any job, they have to look at. Remember how we used to talk about training people? So, somebody come on the job, you want them to have cross training. Well, that's what they're talking about, but they want that to just be the norm. That this person is coming into our organization already cross-trained, already having some of those things in place right from the get-go. And when you have that, now you have an employee that, hey, I've gone through all this training. I've got this employer that's paying me well because I can do, the job of 3 or 4 different guys. That is value to an employer.
Yeah, that's huge. And so it sounds like so the employer, from their perspective, they don't really want to be involved in training. They want people who are already out motivated, getting their own training.
Right. Now, tweak some stuff with them, and work with them with some nuances about the job. That's different. But if I'm going to have to show you everything, man, that's a lot of time.
Right. So do they, I would imagine technology does change over time. So do they pay for like ongoing education or is that just beyond where we're at right now?
No, some of them will. In fact, this afternoon, we were talking earlier, I have a conversation, a meeting that I have to have with a industrial roofer, commercial roofer.
Okay.
And they can't keep employees. They can't find employees.
Right.
But the thing is okay, so when I'm talking to him, it's what are you looking for? Are you just looking for somebody that can drive nails and slop them up with rubber or, and I know before I talk to him, they're looking for something greater than that.
Sure.
One of the things, it's very interesting. One of the things that I've talked to some of the guys that are in the trades, are they wanting these guys to have soft skills? You got to be able to interact with people. You got to be able to write and understand the diction of the industry that you're coming into, and then to be able to carry on a conversation with the folks that you're going to be working with or working for. So that customer, regardless if I'm driving a bulldozer or running shingles or whatever it is, I'm going to have to be able to relate to my customer and have to have a quality conversation with those customers that they understand and be able to explain what I do to them. So, it's just a myriad of things that we have to take these guys through because the face of the industry is changing.
So if somebody, let's face it, we're in a time right now of incredible economic turmoil. So if somebody came to Ashland or one of the other KCTCS schools that said, you know what, I'm ready for a career change. What's a reasonable time frame that they would go in and maybe get a level of certificate that they would be in a high demand occupation?
Anywhere from 4 weeks at this point, about 4 weeks to 2 years.
Okay.
And with the 4-week program, right now we have a lineman program. And the lineman program, it's about 16 weeks. It's one full semester. And these guys, they're going into work with like Windstream, the power company, those types of jobs. We can't keep them. As soon as they're done with that program, they're hired. They're gone. We can't keep up with the demand for that program. You see, one of the things we have to understand is that our infrastructure here in the United States is failing. And because of that, these companies are rushing to try and keep up with that failing infrastructure. They have to replace a lot of stuff. The manpower is not there. And so when you get somebody that's coming into these programs and they're willing to work, they are gone. You get your degree or your diploma, your certification, and you are gone. We have a CDL program here. CDL program, I think, is 4 weeks.
Okay.
At the end of 4 weeks, you're on the road. They're just gone. Yeah. And so they're finding that a lot of the trades, welding. I was talking to the guy for our welding program, and he said they had a call. This guy from I think he was from Mississippi, and said, he asked him, well, do you have any welding students? He says, well, we have about 15 or so right now. And the guy says, okay, good. Send them all my way.
He didn't even care, just that they were in your class.
He didn't care. Send
That's
them
awesome.
all my way. And so the professor was like, no, it doesn't work like that. We can't send our students. They have to decide where they want to go,
Right.
But that just shows you the demand. They're picking up and they're moving. We have a friend of ours right now, and he's been in the welding. He's leading a crew now up in Ohio someplace. But this kid is, how old is he now? 23 maybe?
Okay.
Making six figures a year.
Wow.
Welding.
Yeah.
We have another one. He was 19, 20. He's up in Michigan welding. And so I said, well, what do you do all day? He says, well, I just weld these big pipes together. I said, oh, okay, so how are they paying you to do that? He says, well, I started off with about $35 an hour. By the time I'm done doing what they're going through their training apprenticeship type program, I'll be up to $40 an hour. And by the end, when I'm full, I'll be up to about $52 an hour.
So that's about 110 grand a year. Wow. Now, let's compare this to a 4-year degree, because most 4-year degrees, after a year, you're not making 100 G's. So how much does it cost for someone to go through a welding program? Is that a 16-week program, or is that longer?
The welding program could be a little longer according
Okay.
to what you're doing, so that varies as well.
Okay.
But a lot of this stuff is paid for financial aid, other different student incentive programs, because they're trying to get folks to get engaged in these programs. We don't have enough people coming in. With the failing, like I said, with the failing infrastructure, with problems in construction, heavy equipment operators are retiring en masse. Construction workers, the contractors are retiring. They're not seeing new people coming in. Basic mechanics, auto mechanics, those guys are retiring. Folks aren't coming into that. Our diesel mechanic program, you can't keep people. He said once they get that degree, they're gone. They're done. They're fully employed. We can't. At the point we're at now, we can't keep up with the demand.
That's amazing. So, and let me make sure I understood. Did you say most of these programs are covered by some grant, or like there's no out of pocket?
Yeah, a lot of them are. So you have like Pell Grant, you have financial aid, federal aid. You've got different scholarships that are out there. I mean, there's all sorts of ways to pay for your education. You talked about traditional education and the trades types of education. And I saw a flyer not too long ago, and it showed two people. One of them, I guess they'd gotten his degree, and a 4-year degree in some type of traditional educational program. And then the other person had done like a lineman program. And they were showing up, one was making like $80,000 a year. The other one was making like $70,000 a year. But one of them had zero school expenses to pay back, whereas the other had like $150,000 or something like that to pay back. That's the difference of people going into the trades and going into traditional education.
So I did have a couple questions that popped up in the chat. So can you expand a little bit more on the comment about infrastructure in the U.S. failing? So are we talking bridges, roads?
Bridges, you name it.
Yeah.
Power, bridges, roads, telecommunications.
Yeah.
Right now, they said that if you were to grade our infrastructure all across America, it's at a level of about C. Some people say it's a D. Most of our bridges across the nation are failing. The roads are very difficult to upkeep. Our electrical grid is a ticking time bomb. I mean, anything could, and we see that now. In fact, there's some places in Africa that their infrastructure is way better, more advanced than ours. But the reason for that is that they're developing, and as they're doing that, companies from here in the US are implementing these new systems.
Right.
And so new technology of building roads and building bridges and power lines and all these different types of things. So it's a new ball game. Everything's changing.
Yeah, so here we've got legacy systems that have to be dug up or taken down, so there's a lot of additional costs. So I can see where that makes sense.
Right.
And develop.
Yeah. So if you're developing, you could start off doing it the right way in the first place. Whereas we can change everything over to catch up with those new systems.
Right, and as we've talked about previously, I think the work from home movement is here to stay for most people, and our telecommunications infrastructure is sadly lacking. So we've got a lot of work to do there. I know
we have a lot of work.
I've got fiber optics that runs right in front of my property, but my speed is really slow. So I had a technician come out, or an engineer, and he's like, "Well, it's high speed right up to this point." And I'm, "Well, that's in the street. How about my house?" Well, there's copper between there. I'm like, "Well, that's my speed, you know."
Yeah. Go in and tap it to the street. Set your desk up on the side of the road. You know,
it doesn't do any good if it's at the street. It doesn't come all the way up. So another question is: so with these certifications that we've been talking about, is there any issues with people lacking flexibility that they might have with a traditional 4-year degree?
I guess when you say flexibility, what are you getting at there?
Yeah, I think a lot of times the perception is, and maybe it's reality, I don't know, is that you, like, we took the welder and he's going to be welding. My point to that would be, if he's making $100,000 a year, he can certainly afford to do whatever he wants after he's done welding. I know I've got 4 kids, and one of my children, she just wasn't, 4-year degree wasn't her thing, and she wanted to work with kids. And so she is a dental hygienist, or pediatric dental hygienist. And I just told her, I said, "Hey, listen, you might burn out on this job. You're going to walk out of school and make 65, 70 grand. You might burn out on this after 5 to 7 years. Just have a plan B. Have your second phase in life and already plan it." But so I guess, and the real question was specifically to transferable skills.
Yes.
And I know we talked about a little bit earlier that they're requiring soft skills now. So it sounds like even these employers are requiring a more well-rounded person.
They're requiring a more well-rounded person, yes. But one of the things that they're not concerned about is history. You know? They don't care about your literature program.
Right.
They don't care about some of your sociology and some of those other. They're just not looking for that. That's not. Now, do they want you to have writing skills and be able to produce a document that is, that you might have to share? Yes, they want them to be able to email and use Microsoft Office and interact with, be able to use computers, which is a very interesting thing. I was talking to a gentleman for a union, and he was talking to us about actually teaching computer skills. I'm thinking, okay, you're talking about plumbers. Why do they need these skills? This guy's got to be out there with a wrench, But yeah, they wanted to have these skills because the face of the industry is changing, and some of these things are being integrated into what used to be just a hardcore go to work grind type of program.
Yeah, I just saw a fact in the last 24 hours. For every 1,000 advanced in manufacturing employees, there's only 10 robots in place, and that's like the article was saying that's about 90% off of where we need to be. So I think even these laborious kind of what we perceive to be more physical jobs, there's a lot of technical advancement that can come. I know there's robots that can lay brick now, so a bricklayer isn't necessarily slopping mud and planting brick anymore. He's operating a large machine that has AI and all kinds of smart technology.
Exactly.
So
they're building 3D houses. So a gentleman was asking me. He said, I was telling him about that, and he was like, "What? What do you mean by they're building houses? 3D?" I said, "Yeah." So they set up a robot, loaded up with its I think it's like a liquid concrete, and they let it print the house. Wow. He's just looking at me like, "Well, how does that work?" I'm like, "Man, I can't really tell you, but it's working."
So if the problem is, it seems like the overwhelming problem is it seems like there's plenty of employers that need to hire. The problem is getting people at the top of that funnel to get into these programs. What do you know what's holding people back? I mean, if you're a young person, and what's holding you back, or any person at anybody's age?
Folks don't want to do that type of work.
Really?
It is hard work still.
Sure.
When you look at some of the things that they're doing now, some of the work has become easier. Like I was telling you about the heavy equipment operators.
Right.
Some aspects of plumbing has become easier to some degree, but not that much. You look at roofing. I don't care what situation you're in. If you're a roofer, you're going to be on the roof in the heat.
Yep.
And it's not an easy job.
No.
And so the gentleman I was we'll talk to today, he's saying it's a hard job, but we pay very well. And he made that clear. We pay very well. So I'll find out what very well means to them.
Right.
But they take care of their employees. But everybody's transitioning. So, a lot of folks are looking at the technical aspect. They want to be in an office. They want to, they want that job. I don't know where it exists, but they want that 10 to 3 job, So, I'm like, I don't know if I have that one ready for you yet. Maybe if you set up your own business. I don't even know a business owner that works 10 to 3, but, might be a guy out there doing something along those lines. But for the most part, employees are they understand that things are changing and they're working hard to stay ahead of the curve. But some of them are falling behind because they don't want to change and adapt to a new environment. They're having a problem with the paradigm shift.
So it's kind of like we went back to the infrastructure. You've got to tear down the old to rebuild the new, and that's their legacy system. They don't want to do anything about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so some of them are expecting that we're going to be able to come in and fix their issues,
Right.
but they don't want to change.
Okay.
We look at this pandemic and everything that's going on now. Let me see how I can say this and not get beaten up. It's not a good thing. This thing has been very hard on our economy, on families, and everything else. However, it's opened the eyes to many employers that they don't need brick and mortar to operate their business. Now, that is something that folks have been pushing now for years and telling employers about all these different technologies that they can use and be just as effective with that person being in an off-site office, whether that's home or at the park or at the beach. It doesn't matter where they are. And they can be just as productive as they are when they're in the office. In fact, I had a situation where I was talking to a friend of mine, and he does drafting and CAD/CAM and for mines. And they were just backed up before all this stuff happened. They were still getting to work because of the pandemic. The work didn't stop coming in. So they were still getting the amount of work coming in. So he said they sent them home, gave them computers, sent them home. Well, they went back to work, I think it was Monday before last, about 2 weeks ago. And he said everybody's sitting in the office twiddling their thumbs because they were caught up. Now, when the work was still coming in, but they were so effective at home that they caught up.
Interesting.
And what he said, what happens was, he said, hey, I go to work at 7, I get off at 3, 4. Okay. He said, and then I'm done. If I get an idea or if I want to do something, I'm not driving back to the office.
Right.
He said, but what happened at home was he would get up, he'd go to his desk, he'll work his 8 hours or whatever, and then he'd get home, and he's eating his dinner or he's doing something with the kids, and hey, hold on. An idea pops in there, and he runs back to his computer and gets that done. So he said, actually, they were getting more work out of me for the same pay.
So just the barrier of not having to go to the office allowed for his intellectual kind of curiosity to kind of flow and actually capitalize on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And so he said, and so when I went into my office at home, he said, I was at work. There was no distractions.
Right.
Joe wasn't asking me about the ball game and what I thought about it. So it was this constant. He was just constantly doing the job, and so it was. And because he was doing that without the distractions, he was able to produce a lot more. So they're finding now that a lot of companies that had been approached about using technology and moving forward with technology had to go to technology or close their doors. And when they went to technology, they realized that their folks were more productive. And so some of those people are not going back to the office, or they're
Yeah.
just going back part-time.
Yeah. So virtual platforms that create communication environments, and I'm talking beyond Zoom or whatever. Those are fine platforms, but it's that work environment where you can have these one-on-one conversations and still share information or pass something back and forth to one another. I think
Right.
that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah, you can pull a document up, and me and you could work on that document just like we were in the office.
Yeah.
And what about this thing right here? Oh yeah, let's move that around here. And that's what was happening. But they didn't have. I'm not going to sit on there on Zoom at the middle of the day. And he said I just wasn't doing that as far as talking about the ball game and all this other stuff. And then the other thing that I thought that was interesting, he said, and I had more time with my family.
Yeah. Huge.
I'm like, hold on a second.
Yep.
You're more productive. You have more time with your family. This it's just, yeah, they're just finding. Another thing I ran into, there's a gentleman he's a real estate guy in West Virginia. And he said he's getting ready to unload all of his business offices, all of his lease space for business.
So commercial space.
Commercial space he's getting rid of. He said
Yeah.
he knows after talking to some of them,
Yeah.
they're not coming back.
Yeah, the price per square foot is higher than sending some tech home with each of your employees.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And he said, I can't blame him,
Well, it's interesting because think about the impact that has on our infrastructure. We have strained, damaged infrastructure, and if people aren't using it as much, it gives us a little bit of breathing room. Maybe we can actually get caught up. So that's interesting. So I know we're past the bottom of the hour. So people can reach out to you. I put your email in the, yes, I did. I have Kevin's email in the chat room. So if you want to reach out to him, to follow up with any questions, also feel free to reach out to me. My LinkedIn profile, my LinkedIn link is in there. Is there any final thoughts that you wanted to share, Kevin?
And not it's just that I think we all need to be ready for this paradigm shift. This it's going to change.
Yeah.
We need to embrace that and see how we can make it better, not see how we can not do it, because it is coming. You're looking at the new technology with robotics. You see Twitter put it out there that most of their folks are not coming back. Facebook is looking at doing the same thing.
Right.
So these are major companies that are saying, we're not going back to the old paradigm. We're changing. We're adapting to it because it works.
Right. And you touched on it earlier, and I know you were being sensitive to it about not saying that the pandemic is a good thing, but there is a silver lining. Sometimes these changes probably should have occurred 20 years ago.
They should
Maybe
have
not.
occurred.
We should, and we kind of, for whatever reason, change is hard. This has forced us to change. And I think at the end of the day, it may be a year and a half, it may be 2 years from now. We'll probably be better off as an economy and as a culture, but we'll see. So, yeah. Okay. Well, Kevin, this was awesome. I always enjoy talking to you, and you gave us a lot of insight and input. So you are at Ashland, but KCTCS, they have actually 16
districts, yes.
And then I believe there's a community or technical college within 30 miles of every address in the state of Kentucky. Is that correct?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. So awesome. So
we're right there at your door.
So in Kentucky, there's really no excuse. It sounds like you can get some certifications paid for. and actually have a really good living after you do so. And then I think you can always continue to grow. I mean, let's be honest, you shouldn't stop learning. Learning has to be continuous. So
right. And now we're looking at some virtual stuff as far as training. You know, Microsoft was training folks. They had a program with working along with Boeing where they were training people virtually with a virtual reality type program to build these engines, these jet engines. And so we're looking into all types of technology because we have to stay at the cutting edge of technology and understand it so that we can share that with the businesses that we work with.
So KCTCS is dedicated to being the leader for the state of Kentucky, so you can guide the employers there.
KCT, kind of the tip of the spear.
There you go. I like that. Awesome. Well, Kevin, this was fantastic. I really appreciate your time.
No problem at all.
Thanks a lot. Take care, everyone.
Okay. You take care.